Let me adjust my camera here. Whatever. What the hell is this big? I have no idea what that. Why is there a big hole in my green screen? Hold on.
Maybe because there's a big hole in your green screen.
Hold on for 1 second here. Give me 1 second here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we got some exciting news. I am going to play the breaking news thing here, and then we're going to get into it. Okay, guys, how are you guys doing? My name is John Crump. I'm an investigative journalist. This is Flying Rich over here, and today we're going to be talking about Cargill v. Garland because it is a happy Friday to everyone but the APS, as law perpetrator says. So let's go ahead and jump into this. This is a major victory at the Supreme Court. I bet a lot of people are finding the bump stocks this morning. So let's go ahead. Okay, and jump into it. We're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to skip a bunch of the crap that we don't need in here, but we're going to get into it. But short story is we won. Bump stocks are not machine guns, and this is going to have massive effects across the landscape because the same power that they use to do bump stocks, they use to do pistol braces and frames and receivers. So let's go ahead and jump into this.
Well, wait. What about force reset triggers?
They don't have a rule about that. They just said that's an auto sear. So it's not really going to apply to that. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So I'm going to go ahead.
Le Supreme Court of the United States. All right, so let's see. What do we got? The National Firearms Act of 1934 defines a machine gun as any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, or can readily be restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. With a machine gun, a shooter can fire multiple times or even continuously by engaging the trigger only once. This capability distinguishes a machine gun from semi-automatic firearm. With a semi-automatic firearm, the shooter can only fire one time by engaging the trigger. Using a technique called bump firing, shooters can fire semi-automatic firearms at rates approaching those of submachine guns. A shooter who bump fires a rifle uses a firearm's recoil to help rapidly manipulate the trigger. Although bump firing does not require any additional equipment, a bump stock is an accessory designed to make the technique easier.
We can skip all this. This is basically saying what it is, and then it goes to the killing of the 58 people in there. Then they talk about Cargill, how he surrendered 2 bump stocks. And then they challenged it under the Administrative Procedures Act, which is the same challenge that Mock is going under in Vanderstock and all these other cases. So this is basically just summarizing the case.
Excellent. Wow. I think I'm gonna drink tonight. Also, ooh, do you know what day it is? It's Trump's birthday.
All right, I don't care about Trump.
But Trump was responsible for this.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. All right, so let's just go down to the opinion of the court. So we all know what it is. So let me just start the beginning of that, and we'll go from there. All right. So
Thomas,
and Justice Thomas wrote it.
can I buy him a gift?
God bless
Justice
Thomas.
delivered opinion to the court. Congress has long restricted access to machine guns, a category of firearm defined by the ability to shoot automatically more than one shot by a single action of the trigger, citing case law. Semi-automatic firearms, which require shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot, are not machine guns. This case asks whether a bump stock, an accessory for a semi-automatic rifle that allows a shooter to rapidly re-engage the trigger,
Sorry, I'm going to move this over. Sorry.
and therefore achieve a high rate of fire. Let's see, high rate of fire. Oh, I was right. Converts the rifle into a machine gun. We hold that it does not, and therefore affirm. I'm not sure how that works, but under the National Firearms Act of 1934, machine gun is any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, and can be readily restored to shoot automatically. Scroll up.
No, sorry. I'm doing like multiple things at one time.
Multitasking. You're writing your article for Ammo Land as we speak.
Yeah, I already have it's already 1,000 words.
More than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. The statutory definition also includes any part designed and intended for use in. Scroll down.
All right, hold on. I'll stop doing this.
Converting a weapon into a machine gun. With a machine gun, a shooter can fire multiple times or even continuously by engaging the trigger only once. This capability distinguishes a machine gun from a semi-automatic firearm. With a semi-automatic firearm, the shooter can fire only one time by engaging the trigger. The shooter must release and re-engage the trigger to fire another shot. Machine guns can ordinarily achieve higher rates of fire than semi-automatic firearms because the shooter does not need to release and re-engage the trigger between shots. Shooters have devised techniques for firing semi-automatic firearms at rates approaching those of some machine guns. One technique is called bump firing. A shooter who bump fires a rifle uses the firearm's recoil to help rapidly manipulate the trigger. The shooter allows the recoil from one shot to push the whole firearm forward. As the rifle slides back and away from the shooter's stationary trigger finger, the trigger released and reset the next shot. Simultaneously, the shooter uses his non-trigger hand. Scroll down.
Like basically, it's showing how the bump stock works.
But great understanding of what a bump stock is.
Thomas knows all about it.
Yes. The question in this case is whether a bump stock transforms a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun as defined by, for many years, the ATF took the position that the semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks were not machine guns under the statute. On more than 10 separate occasions over several administrations, ATF consistently concluded that rifles equipped with bump stocks cannot automatically fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. For example, ATF explained that a rifle equipped with a bump stock does not operate automatically because forward pressure must be applied to support hand to the forward handguard, and because the shooter slides the rifle forward in the stock to fire each shot. Each succeeding shot fires with a single trigger function. Ta-da! ATF abruptly reversed course in response to mass shooting in Las Vegas, October 2017. 2017, a gunman fired on a crowd attending an outdoor music festival in Las Vegas, killing 58 people, wounding over 500 more. The gunman equipped his weapons with bump stocks. which allowed him to fire hundreds of rounds in a matter of minutes. This tragedy created tremendous political pressure to
All right, we can skip
outlaw.
all this. This is basically just talking about the political pressure and everything else. So just go on to the final rule.
The final rule also repudiated ATF's previous guidance that bump stocks did not qualify as machine guns under blah, and it ordered owners of bump stocks to destroy them or surrender them to the ATF within 90 days. Bump stock owners who failed to comply were subject to criminal prosecution. Michael
Then it
Cargill.
it's all Michael Cargill, how he surrendered to bump stocks. And they granted certiorari, granted cert. And then it talks about the definition of a machine gun, by a single function of the trigger. And how just I'm gonna highlight something for you to read.
Yeah, we hold that semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun because it cannot fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. And even if it would not do so automatically, ATF therefore exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies bump stocks as machine guns. Amen, brother.
Yeah, basically what they're saying is that's not what the law says. You cannot change the law to fit your political goals. So that is something that's very, very good for us. All right, keep on going.
A semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock does not fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger with or without a bump stock, as a shooter must release and reset the trigger between every shot and subsequent shot fired after the trigger has been released and reset, the result of a separate and distinct function of the trigger. All that a bump stock does is accelerate the rate of fire because these distinct functions of the trigger occur in rapid succession. As always, we start with the statutory text, which refers to a single function of the trigger. Amen. The function of an object, the mode of action by which it fulfills its purpose. Oxford Dictionary. See also American Heritage Dictionary, the natural property of action for which a mechanism is fitted or employed, and a trigger is an apparatus such as a movable catch or lever that sets some force or mechanism in action. Oxford Dictionary, also American Heritage Dictionary. The lever pressed by the finger to discharge the firearm, any similar device used to, Crumpy?
Keep it going.
Now I got to figure out where I am. Figure, release, firing.
Just go down to no one disputes.
No one disputes that a semi-automatic rifle without a bump stock is not a machine gun because it fires only one shot per function of trigger. That is engaging the trigger. A single time will cause the firing mechanism to discharge only one shot. To understand why it is helpful to consider the mechanism of firing cycle of a semi-automatic rifle, because the statutory definition is key to a function of a trigger. Only the trigger assembly is relevant for this purpose. Although the trigger assemblies for semi-automatic rifles vary, the basic mechanics are generally the same. The following series of illustrations how a trigger is assembled in AR-15 semi-automatic rifle works. In each illustration, the front of the rifle, the barrel, would be pointing to the left. We begin with an overview of the relevant components.
Yeah, so basically they actually put pictures of a thing, and they explained AR-15, and they went really into detail explaining how an AR-15 works.
Wow!
Diagrams and everything.
I can just see Thomas going over this in a with the rest of the Supreme Court justices, explaining it step by step and like getting frustrated.
Basically, the whole thing talks about how a bump stock works, how it's still a single function of the trigger, and everything else. So we're not going to read this.
Wow. He drove the death nail into this.
Yeah, so go with B.
A bump stock is not a machine gun for other reasons. Even if semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock could fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger, it would not do so automatically. Section 5845B asks whether a weapon shoots automatically more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. The statute thus specifies the precise action that must automatically scroll.
My computer's acting up. Sorry.
Cause a weapon to fire more than one shot, a single function of the trigger. If something more than a single function of the trigger is required to fire multiple shots, the weapon does not satisfy the statutory definition, as Judge Henderson put.
Yeah, basically, he's basically harping on the fact that it's not a machine gun. It doesn't function
Yeah.
as a machine gun. Again, now let's go to down part C, which is going to be more of the
Abandoning
same.
the text, ATF and the dissent attempt to shore up their position by relying on the presumption. All right, so the dissent attempts to undermine against ineffectiveness. That presumption weighs against interpretations of the statute, would render the law in a great measure nugatory. Never heard that word. An example, offenders to elude its provisions in the most easy manner. The Emily Wheat, not familiar with that, is a modest corollary to the common sense proposition that Congress presumably does not enact useless laws. United States versus Castleman, Scalia concurring in part and concurring in judgment. In ATF view, Congress restricted machine guns because they eliminated the manual movements of the shooter would otherwise need to make in order to fire continuously at a high rate of fire, as bump stocks do. Brief for petitioners 40, so the ATF reasons, concluding that bump stocks are lawful simply because the trigger moves back and forth. What exalt artifice above reality and enable evasion of the federal machine gun ban? Internal quotation marks omitted. Dissent endorses similar view. Scroll down.
Sorry, my computer's like being very judgmental. Or being
The
hacked by
presumption
ATF.
against ineffectiveness cannot do the work that the ATF and the dissent ask for of it. A law is not useless merely because it draws a line more narrowly than one of its conceivable statutory purposes might suggest. Interpreting 5845B to exclude semi-automatic rifles equipped with a bump stocks comes nowhere close to making it useless. Under our reading, 5845B still regulates old traditional machine guns. The fact that it does not capture other weapons capable of a high rate of fire plainly does not render the law useless. Moreover, it is difficult to understand how the ATF can plausibly argue otherwise, given that the consistent position for almost a decade in numerous separate decisions was that 5845B does not capture semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks. Curiously, the dissent relegates ATF's about face to a footnote instead of pointing to its classification of other devices. See post at and scroll down.
Sorry. Every time I scroll down, it takes a while.
The dissent, in additional argument for applying the presumption against ineffectiveness, fails on its own terms to argue that our interpretation makes 5845B far less effective. The dissent highlights that the shooter with a bump stock equipped rifle can achieve a rate of fire that rivals traditional machine guns, but the dissent elsewhere acknowledges that a shooter can do the same with an unmodified semi-automatic rifle with the manual bump firing technique. See post at 5. The dissent thus fails to prove that our reading makes 5845B less effective, much less ineffective, as is required to invoke the presumption. In any event, Congress would have linked the definition of machine gun to a weapon's rate of fire, as the dissent would prefer, but it instead enacted a statute that turns on whether a weapon can fire more than one shot automatically by a single function of the trigger, 5A45B, and is never our job to rewrite statutory text under the banner of speculation about what Congress might have done. Amen. Wow.
Yep.
So he is putting the final nail in the coffin and pouring concrete on it.
Yes.
Wow.
So basically, they affirm the.
I got chills. I got chills.
So then you have Alito that had a concurrent opinion, which is basically the same, and then you had a couple other ones. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, who
the Brain Trust,
who dissented. But overall, it is a good victory. We have won.
Oh no! This is a freaking nuke from orbit, scorched earth victory. This is just not your average everyday victory. This is
My question to the people out there: how many have located the bump stocks that they might have misplaced?
Can
I put a
hold on? I'm about to click print.
The bump stock. According to the ATF, that's probably not allowed still, because it was something submitted to the ATF, and the ATF has always held if you put a spring on a bump stock that it converts it. Like that's never been legal, so that would be a little bit harder to argue on.
Dude,
that might be.
Crumpy, we lost your audio. Your audio went bad, and then we lost it. I gotta say, this is one. Only Thomas can write a decision like this. Thomas is brilliant. He is a firearms expert. I'm just so impressed, and he went, point by point, line by line through everything they did wrong in trying to push this forward and breathe life into banning bump stocks. And also the key thing that he said here is that which kind of contradicts prior Supreme Court decisions, is he said it is not our job to write case law, and which there are prior decisions. In fact, under the Robert Court, Supreme Court Justice Roberts has rewritten case law. So, Thomas is kind of poking his finger in Robert's eye on this one also.
Yep.
So Thomas is like totally the originalist. We got to get him a gym membership and some health food. We got to make sure he's gluten free.
Yeah, dude, we got to I don't know, man. We got to do an AI of
get him human growth hormones or whatever. Make sure he lives to 200 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I gotta say,
some of my blood to him to keep him alive or something. I don't know, man.
Oh my gosh, Thomas is brilliant. He really is. Not only, I would say, in not knowing anything about the man other than reading some of his decisions, he must be a true Renaissance man, because not only does he understand the mechanics of how an AR-15 trigger works, he's brilliant about the law. And boy, what a brilliant man.
Yeah, and he knows about guns.
Yes.
He definitely knows about guns, which is a very good thing, because a lot of these judges, they don't know anything about guns, so they screw stuff up. But I like all the documentation, all the diagrams, and the actual decision, which is freaking awesome.
So when a judge does that, I mean, does he have a subject matter expert come in and help him with that, or is he doing that on his own?
No, it's usually a clerk that will do it, that will get it done for him.
Because I'm like, if you don't get me wrong, I know how an AR-15 trigger works, but if you asked me to diagram and detail it, I'd be like, Here's a good comment. Sotomayor, Kay, and Jackson dissenting. Color me surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, all right. So yeah, we need to send Judge Thomas a year's supply of Turkesterone.
We definitely need to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. The Sentinel says Roberts is not a huge Second Amendment advocate. Roberts prefers softer cases.
Yeah, he does. He does. But this is a circuit split. You got to remember that.
Dude, I am over the top. This is a good day. I mean, this is yesterday's decision. I was like, because it talked about the APA and not Second Amendment. It did touch on that a little bit.
Well, I told you why what
Yes,
Rich is
yeah.
talking about is yesterday the pistol brace thing was totally vacated, and it didn't touch on the Second Amendment at all because it didn't need to, because it didn't rise to the level of a Second Amendment case because it was decided before it got to the constitutionality. What the district courts do first is they look at the administrative process and see if that's violated. Now, if the administrative process is violated, that means that they will rule on that and decide for the plaintiff, and therefore they never have to consider the Second Amendment part of that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I understand how that works.
There's no reason to go forward.
I get that. I just really appreciate how Thomas went point for point over every last thing that could be questioned, and just absolutely slammed the door shut on this.
Well, this case is over. It's a victory, and yeah, I mean, F you, MFers. That's all I got to say. It is definitely not a machine gun. I bet a bunch of people are finding their bump stocks. June is always a busy month for me.
So, Ron, yes, bump stocks. 3D print them now.
Yeah.
Wow. So should I 3D print a bump stock with Thomas's face on it?
Yes. Go ahead. But this is massive, massive news. This is a win. We always...
When do we get the AI to generate Oprah saying, you get a bump stock, and you get a bump stock, and you get a bump stock?
What does this mean? So Fly Fire is not in business, but if they were to come back into business, they would legally be allowed to sell their stuff.
Ron Wayne. Amen. Thomas is brilliant. Yeah, Ron, rewatch, roll back and watch this, because Thomas basically absolutely slammed the door shut on bump stocks.
Yeah, it's been a busy week, man. I'm glad we got this now instead of in 2 weeks.
Yes.
I'm out of the country.
I'm totally stoked. How does this
hopefully that we got this today? That means that that we might get the Rahimi case on Thursday, which would be perfect for me.
Yeah, I don't see this affecting Matt one way or the other.
No, it's not going to affect Matt. They're claiming it's an auto sear, so it's not going to affect Matt, unfortunately.
Right? If only.
But I mean, I'm sure they can use it somehow, but because they're claiming that the lightning link, if you cut out a lightning link, if you make a lightning link, I'm not saying that's what Matt did, but the government's argument in the CRS case is that it's a lightning link. Now, lightning link does enable automatic fire by a single function of the trigger. So even though I don't believe it's a lightning link, That's what the government's argument is. So I don't think this is going to help out Matt, unfortunately. Yeah, but yeah, I wish it would, but it won't.
Oh, we got a super chat here. I wonder what effect this will have on binary and forced reset triggers as well because of the warding.
Yeah. Well, I know they want to go after. I know they want to go after binary triggers and everything. There is a couple different things you can think about this. I think this helps out certain binary triggers and certain force reset triggers, because in a force reset trigger, your finger is always moving. So I think it's probably going to be it's probably going to be more helpful for force reset triggers. Binary triggers are legal. They have always been legal. I know the ATF had some issues with certain binary triggers because they said that they can have a hammer follow, which they claimed was a single function trigger that caused automatic fire. I don't agree with that. But also in this case, I think this pits off the ATF. It puts them on notice because they violated the APA on this rule, according to the Supreme Court. Dark is taking his dog to the vet.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So this is basically a notice to the ATF. They use the same rules to make all the other rules. They engage in the business of the frames and receivers rule, and also the pistol brace rule. So by looking at this, we basically know or have a great idea what the Supreme Court's going to do in those cases, which is not good for the ATF.
I mean this should be a chilling effect, but again, so here's the thing I got to say about the ATF. We're anthropomorphizing. We're applying human characteristics to something that isn't, and we're projecting logical concepts on it. So any one of us would be embarrassed and ashamed and have our tail between our legs and be humbled based on this. I don't believe that's going to be the case at the ATF. These people are, monsters, and they want to grab your guns, and logic and reason do not apply to them.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to mention one group that did a lot of work on this case, and they're not a Second Amendment group, but they definitely helped on this. And that is the New Civil Liberties Alliance, which actually represented Cargill in this case.
Oh, wow.
So I just want to shout them out because they did a freaking bang up job on this.
Amen. Amen. I'm seriously, I've got chills. Thomas really just knocked it out of the park on this.
When I saw Thomas wrote it, I was like, we won.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The majority opinion by Thomas. You're like, done.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
amen.
That's a good thing. We're going to get Rahimi later on. Hopefully we win that. Rahimi is a dirtbag, but you got to look at the constitutionality of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, look, in Florida, we're allowing felons the right to vote if they serve their sentence. And I used to be against this, and talking with you and Dark about it have brought me over to the dark side. If you're no longer a threat to society, yeah. I think you should have all of you, and you're out among free people, you should have all free people rights restored.
Yeah, guns for Armageddon says, now let's get non-felons' rights back. I think we should get all felons' rights back. Once you're out of prison, I think you should automatically get your rights restored.
I don't believe we should be gatekeepers. There should, just like freedom of speech applies to the speech you dislike, because freedom of speech does not need to apply to the speech that you do like or concur with. Likewise, your right to keep and bear arms should be yours if you're not behind bars and separated from your property. That done. If you're safe enough to be out in society, you're safe enough to have all rights of a free man.
Talking about Dark, there he is. DOD After Dark, check him out if you're not already on this channel. But yeah, that is it. This is a great victory for the Second Amendment community. This is a great victory for natural rights. This is a great victory. This slaps the ATF around. This gives us a great idea of what is going to happen in other cases, like that's decided now. Frames and receivers, pistol braces, and engaged in the business rules. If you commit murder, should you have a gun? Absolutely.
If you've paid your debt to society, I don't know the circumstance, but if you're out and if the courts deem you to be a free man, you should have all the rights of a free man.
Yep. Blue Curtain Burner says in the dissent, it says commonly available semi-automatic rifles, which is good. It is. He's absolutely right there. Right? Because in Heller, it says you cannot ban firearms that are in common use. And in the dissent, Kagan admits that, or Sotomayor, I think it was, admitted that AR-15s and semi-automatic rifles are in common use. So that's going to be used. I'm so elated right now. What's the word on FRTs? Rare Breed is claiming on their website they won their case and we can legally purchase triggers by using encrypted payment methods. That case is not complete yet. I will say that, but right now they do have an injunction. So they are legally allowed to sell them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's been that way for a while.
Yeah, okay. I hate to say, with all the laws flip-flopping, with stays and injunctions and all of that, it's tough to, I mean, we need a scoreboard.
Yeah, unless you follow this stuff for like a job, which I do.
I need to write it down on the whiteboard. It's like, check, applies to everybody, applies to GOA members, applies to FPC members, who's it applied to?
Dude, just memorize it.
Right?
That's what I do.
Crump, but not everybody has the crumpy brain.
I don't have a crumpy brain. Well, I guess I do.
All right, the
implant. Nothing
special.
It's nothing special. And the implant hasn't been charged up in like months. Afraid to charge it up, my head might catch on fire. I have what he's talking about. I have a microchip implanted into my to my like cheekbone, or if I go through like TSA and stuff like that. So yeah. Yeah, but I can't get like a MRI or anything like that because it would really suck for me.
Ooh,
anyone that's not in prison should have a gun. Child predators should be in prison or dead. There you go.
I mean, wood chippers are always a good thing.
Yeah. Or in wood chippers, yes. So I think being a child predator should be like an automatic death sentence or life imprisonment. Actually, what's up, PewPew? Actually, I think it should be life in prison. I don't actually believe in the death sentence. So
Could it just be a really long time in a wood chipper?
I guess. But no, but I don't really believe in the death penalty. I know that's
One way.
kind of, and the reason why I don't believe in the death penalty is because there's been so many cases where people have been put to death and turns out that they're probably not guilty. So yeah. And since, if they're definitely guilty, it would be like, yeah, I believe in the death sentence, but once again, then you get to this subjective, how do you determine if they're 100% guilty?
Sure.
And that still can be you. So there you go. You got to draw a line somewhere
Yep, yep.
and stuff like that. But yep,
Well, cool.
pedos should definitely get life imprisonment or 10 minutes alone.
Oh man.
And
All right. So hold
whatever.
on, Brian. Former CO here. I've seen peds get less time than drug charges for like 10 years for a child crimes, and drug charges get 25 to life.
Yeah,
Woo!
that's freaking crazy. I'm also for the legalization of all drugs.
We are simpatico, sir.
So there you go. I'm for less laws. So basically, if you violate the rights of someone else,
Yeah.
any crime that doesn't have a victim should not be a crime.
Yeah, and I don't. I'm not pro drugs, but I'm libertarian on it. And if you do something in your own whatever and it doesn't harm anyone, let's say you grow your own cannabis and smoke it in the privacy of your own home, and you never become a
I don't
liability on society.
I don't
That's your
care if you
business.
grow it in your backyard and you walk around the streets smoking it. I don't
Right.
like it.
Right.
Like in Vegas, you smell weed everywhere, and
Oh yeah,
I
I
hate that.
actually, yeah, John and I, we did a lot of walking in Vegas, and it was like,
I hate that. I hate that.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
can't enforce my beliefs and
yeah. If
my
it smelled
thoughts
like
on it.
menthol instead of skunk, I would be a little more okay with it.
I mean, I hate it, but I cannot. I'm not gonna say I hate it, so therefore you can't do it. I don't like it, so you can't do it.
Right, right.
It's not my place to do it. I don't like it, but it's not my right to do it. To enforce my beliefs on it.
Oh, Kurt, is Kurt in Michigan? Is that where he is?
Like I said, guns for Armageddon. I believe that pedos should be locked up forever. So you can say I'm not okay with pedos having guns because I believe that they should be locked up in prison forever. But what I'm saying is, if you're not in prison, you should get all your rights back.
Yes. Yeah, if you're rehabilitated and safe to be in the open population of the free world, yes, you should have
No,
100% of your rights back.
but I also think that there's no way to rehabilitate a pedo. So I think it should be a life in prison.
Yes.
So there you go. So you can say I don't think they should have guns because I don't think that they should be out on the streets. But if a person's out on the streets, I think they should be able to have a
Yeah.
gun.
Alrighty, Crumpy, I think we beat this to death.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Follow Flying Rich at Flying Rich and Flying Rich Firearms. And with that, we are out of here. On your firearms channel, when can you stream again?
I streamed yesterday, so I don't know why Flying Rich didn't allow StreamYard to connect. I did a live stream yesterday after 6 o'clock.
As for StreamYard can't connect to your account, maybe you remove it and put it back in.
Yeah, okay, I'll give that a shot.
All right, guys. So there we go. And
Yeah, and while you're all
We're out
here,
of
one
it.
last pimperage. DLD Hardware. Check out DLD Hardware for cool stuff coming in the future, like custom knives and triggers that are designed by us.
Yep. All right, guys. See ya.